and very confident we'll provide a much-needed voice for the families of District 86 as well as the entire state of Tennessee. So, welcome to Senator Pearson. Couldn't be a more important occasion to join us for your first press conference. As of today, as we stand here in our state capitol, our state has the single most restrictive and extreme reproductive health care law in the country. There is nothing pro-life about the laws that treat women in the state of Tennessee as less than equal. There is nothing pro-life about the agenda of those legislators and governors who so recklessly enacted these laws. To this end, we, the Democrats of the State Senate and the House of Representatives, have introduced legislation that puts our trust in women to make their own healthcare decisions. It places the trust back in the hands of women, their families, their faith leaders, and their physicians. Now, this common sense legislation would rewrite Tennessee law to explicitly prohibit state and local government officials from interfering with women's reproductive health care decisions. The legislation removes all criminal penalties associated with pregnancies to protect those who were trained and took an oath to provide vital health care services to Tennessee women and families. This bill will expand access to medication abortion and repeals medically unnecessary political requirements that are currently in state law. This legislation that we've entered is more in line with the values of Tennesseans. We can no longer be that one state that kowtows to extremists and has the most restrictive reproductive health care laws in the country. And to further discuss this, I'm going to hand it off to my colleague and leader, Senator Linda Lamar.
Thank you, Chair. Senator Linda Lamar, Chair of the Senate Democratic Caucus. Today we are gathered together with members of the House and Senate Democratic Caucuses, advocacy groups, doctors, supporters, and mothers to ask for our rights back. Just a few weeks ago, we should have been celebrating the 50th anniversary of national abortion rights, but today we begin our journey to restore our rights in Tennessee. We are here because we envision a world where Tennesseans are free to raise their children safe, supportive, healthy, and in loving communities free from government interference in their personal and family decisions. However, for the first time in history, in our state of Tennessee, women can face death and our physicians can't save our lives. At this moment, we Democrats want to reiterate our commitment to the fight for control over our own bodies and the right to decide if our life matters more. That is why we are gathering to introduce the Fundamental Right to Reproductive Health Care Act. This bill will restore full rights to abortion, a right that a woman has had for the past 50 years. The fight to reinstate abortion access is about allowing women to choose their own life. Yeah. So let me break it down why it's imperative that we introduce this legislation and ask the Republican Party to put their misguided partisan politics aside and restore the fundamental rights of women. Yeah. We must first address the current state of birthing people here in the state of Tennessee. First, according to the CDC, Tennessee already has one of the highest maternal mortality rates in this country, and Tennessee's extreme abortion ban puts more lives at risk. Maternal death rates in 2020 were 62% higher in states with abortion bans like Tennessee than in states where their procedure is still legal. Birthing people in Tennessee are nearly 3 times as likely to die than their white counterparts because they are Black. maternal mortality and abortion bans disproportionately impact Black and brown and low-income communities in our state. According to ACLU, maternal death rates in states with trigger laws like ours on average almost 2 times higher death rates than in states with laws protecting abortion access. In the Spotlight report, as a follow-up on the state of reproductive health post-Dobbs, the Gender Equity Policy Institute found that mothers living in a state like Tennessee that banned abortion after Dobbs were up to 3 times more likely to die during pregnancy, during childbirth, or soon after giving birth. Babies born in states with abortion bans like Tennessee were 30% more likely to die in their first month. And more than likely, teens living in states with abortion bans are 2 times more likely to suffer from teen pregnancy. Our own Tennessee Hospital Association reported that rural communities often face shortages of physicians and healthcare professionals, and Tennessee has already experienced 16 hospital closures, which 13 of them are in rural areas. Over 80% of pregnancy-related deaths were preventable in this state, and according to the CDC, and our governor and our anti-woman legislators continue to defend and push legislation that criminalizes women for their pregnancy outcomes. As we all heard, the most recent DCS audit reveals what many of us already know. We are already failing the children we got in this state. For too long, this state has made it a crime to parent while poor, taking kids away from their families and communities for lack of affordable housing, food, and other resources, while failing to invest in meaningful public programs that could help these families get back on their feet. The facts are clear. We are not doing a good job of taking care of the mothers and children we have here right now. So let's reiterate that Tennessee has the most extreme abortion ban in this country, and it puts women and children's lives in danger. Tennessee law currently makes it illegal and a Class C felony punishable by 15 years in prison with no exceptions. No exceptions. So what that means, if you are raped, you have to carry your rapist's baby. If an uncle decides to take advantage of his 12-year-old niece, she has to carry that baby created from incest and rape. A human trafficking victim who is constantly beaten and abused by her pimp has to carry the baby of the man she was just recently sold to. A 35-year-old woman who was recently just diagnosed with breast cancer has to finish carrying the baby before she can start her own chemo treatments. A woman like myself suffering from preeclampsia has to carry a baby even though she's at risk of dying from a stroke. And this law criminalizes doctors who took an oath to save lives, and they can't even do that. So we can thank the Republican Party for creating a state that women will die or suffer from extreme trauma because they believe the lives of the unborn matter more than the lives of the living. The truth is, abortion bans are not adequate solution to saving lives. They don't increase access to care for all, and they can harm people seeking care by requiring someone to plead their case to a judge, a lawyer, and hospital administrators. It's cruel and it's unfair to expect this of survivors of sexual assault or incest or someone with a medical emergency. People should not need permission to access the care that they need or access medical care because a rule is not an exception. That is why our Democratic caucuses stand united to restore full access to abortion because it is life-saving care that all Tennesseans deserve. For us standing here today, the fight to reinstate abortion access is about allowing women to choose our own lives. I don't know any woman who accesses abortions to get rid of children. Not one. Not one. So don't let Republicans tell you this false tale. The decision to have an abortion is a healthcare decision because the facts are clear. It's not always safe to have a baby. If the states want to discourage more women from accessing abortion services, do a better job at giving women the tools and resources to have a healthy pregnancy and raise children free of harm and poverty. This session, Democrats will not only be fighting for abortion access, but all the kitchen table issues that allow all Tennesseans to take care of themselves and their families. I am asking the Republican Party to join us in this fight. Put misguided partisan politics aside and do the right thing for women and families. I am expecting your support on this vital piece of legislation. Thank you.
Representative Brian Johnson and Senator Heidi Campbell will be next.
Thank you. The speakers before me have done an excellent job laying things out. And what I want to reiterate again is that my state, that I love dearly, has said that women are not equal. That's what they're telling us. Women aren't equal. We don't trust them to make their own health decisions. There's no health decision that men are not allowed to make on their own in this state or this country. But they are telling women, we just can't handle it. We can't make our own decisions. This has been decided by a body that is currently 10% women, 90% men. There are 2 women in the House Democratic caucus. There are 8 women in the Republican caucus. This is unacceptable. This state is 52% women. And we need to hear from them. Their voices need to join with ours, and we need to demand that we are treated equally, because we are absolutely equal. And it is Republican policies that are keeping women from being healthy. It is the fact that we have not expanded Medicaid so that every woman can stay healthy throughout her life, so she is healthy for a pregnancy. That is money, federal tax dollars, coming back to Tennessee that we sent to the federal government. It's paid for. It is sitting there for us to take, and they are refusing to take those dollars. However, they're really happy to take federal dollars for roads, but they won't take it for the people of Tennessee who need it desperately. They won't take it to care for the women and young girls in this state. It is unconscionable that that's where we are. Their policy of hoarding TANF dollars instead of immediately getting it to those families who so desperately need it. We're going to run it through some middleman so that it takes longer and part of it gets leaked away instead of going directly to those families who need it. We are defunding our public schools. Everything that we do hurts the family and hurts children. These policies are damaging to women, young girls, and families. We can do better. We need our colleagues to join us in caring for the health and livelihood of all women and all girls, and we need to make sure that every Tennessee woman is equal and has complete control and of bodily autonomy, and not the government making her health decisions.
Hey, we all know that reproductive rights go hand in hand with economic independence for women. But what we don't talk about, and we're already seeing that this is happening, is that this trigger ban, which forces women to give birth, and sometimes even to die, is going to have a huge negative impact on our overall economy. Doctors are already leaving our states. Women won't have access to obstetric and gynecologic health care. Professors, entrepreneurs, business people are already leaving our state because they don't want to live in a state that is not safe for women. Businesses will not want to move here if we can't support their female staff or the children of their employees. This is not a sustainable economic decision. A Tennessee that is not safe for women is a Tennessee that is not good for business.
I'm Dr. Amy Gordon Bono. and a mom. The state that I was born into, the state that I brought my children into, was forever changed this past summer. I'm thankful we now have the opportunity to restore the dignity of women and families and honor patients' healthcare decisions. Women should have the freedom to decide for themselves whether and when to start and grow their families. Additionally, I believe pregnancy outcomes should not be criminal. This proposed legislation removes essential pregnancy care from the criminal code. This legislation keeps doctors from being criminal just for doing our jobs. When a medical procedure that has a therapeutic indication, a life-saving indication, becomes criminal, we are on a very slippery slope in medicine. And when politicians want to criminalize physicians, you better believe patients are not far behind. This type of legislation preserves access to needed women's health care, like abortion, contraception, and health education. This legislation moves us closer to better and more equitable maternal health outcomes. And I do hope this keeps any woman from being fearful for her life or her livelihood when being pregnant. We need laws in our state that allow physicians to practice using our medical judgment, not lawyer consultations and law books. We need laws that allow us to practice evidence-based, patient-centered care. We need laws that trust women and families to make decisions that are best for them. Our state's current abortion laws intrude on the patient-physician relationship in harmful, divisive ways. And I'm thankful that these legislators here today are willing to speak up and file legislation to restore the freedom of women and families and protect their physicians. Thank you.
My name is Dr. Heather Mounty. I'm a Nashville obstetrician and gynecologist, native Tennessean, and mother as well. I was born in this state with reproductive rights that have now been stripped away from the patients that I treat. I stand here today representing my patients that have been negatively impacted and my colleagues that have been criminally implicated due to the trigger ban from August of 2022. Tennessee boasts the most restrictive abortion ban in the United States, and according to the U.S. Centers for Disease and Prevention, a maternal mortality rate of 62.4 deaths per 100,000 live births in 2021. Restricting access to abortion care will not improve maternal mortality in our state, and I fear it may do the opposite. I would like to bring the attention to a few patient examples of how our trigger ban has affected them. The first one, an 18-year-old female who attends a local university is sexually assaulted and finds out she is pregnant by her missed period confirmed by a pregnancy test. She was not on contraception because she was never sexually active before. She is very depressed and seeking help to have an induced abortion. She does not know where to go. The bottom line, she cannot seek care in Tennessee currently. She must go out of state. The second patient, a 27-year-old female, has a history of an ectopic pregnancy, which is non-viable. She discusses this with me, her concerns of trying to conceive again. She has an increased risk of having this happen again. She's fearful of a delay in care and dying as a result of having another ectopic pregnancy. Unfortunately, our current trigger ban does not have any listed exceptions for non-viable pregnancies. Due to the criminalization in this law, there could be a delay in her care. An ectopic pregnancy is an emergency situation and should not be delayed, period. However, a poorly worded law could cloud the judgment of a well-meaning doctor. The third patient, a 37-year-old female, is desperate to start her family. She has never conceived. She is crying during our conversation. What if her life is threatened before the baby is viable? Will she die because the baby has a heartbeat? Many states with strict abortion bans allow patients to wait until the brink of severe illness before intervening on the mother's behalf. This is inexcusable, in my professional opinion, and any law that would allow this is wrong. What if her baby has a finding incompatible with life that is found at her anatomy scan at 20 weeks? Can she have an induced abortion to end the pregnancy? Not in Tennessee. This is a difficult one for me. At this point in the pregnancy, finding out a diagnosis like this is devastating to my patients, and sending them out of state is heartbreaking. To help my patients through these tough decisions and early deliveries in Tennessee means a lot for continuity of care and comfort, but I'm not allowed to do that anymore. The fourth patient, a 41-year-old female who has been trying to get pregnant for many years. She's 11 weeks and had a high-risk screening test for trisomy 18 and trisomy 13. After counseling, her diagnostic test shows that she has trisomy 13 for her baby, which is often incompatible with life outside the womb and may pass at any point during her pregnancy. She asked, can she be induced to end the pregnancy in Tennessee? No, she cannot. I hope my voice will allow politicians to understand how complex my job is and to comprehend the specialization it takes to assist patients through pregnancies and abortions alike. I appreciate the opportunity to bring trust back into the sacred space of the patient and physician relationship, where no one should interfere with the threat of criminalization. My patients deserve the dignity and freedom to choose how to have a family with appropriate counsel and without government interference. Thank you.
And Sen Diane, Executive Director of the ACLU, and then Pastor Kelly X of the Village Church.
Thank you and good afternoon. I am Kathy Sinback, Executive Director of the ACLU of Tennessee, the American Civil Liberties Union. With our partners, we envision a Tennessee where all people are free to govern our own lives, our bodies, and our futures, because communities thrive when everyone is empowered to make their own decisions and to have children in safe, healthy, and supportive communities. We are here today to express our support for the Fundamental Right to Reproductive Health Care Act, which will fully restore access to abortion in Tennessee. While we recognize the challenges this bill will face in the days to come, it is an important step forward in what we know will be a long journey to achieve access to safe abortion care and to comprehensive reproductive justice for all families who call Tennessee home. We cannot allow our government officials to ignore the will of the people. A recent poll published by Vanderbilt University showed that a majority of Tennesseans support accessible abortion care. We need lawmakers from both sides of the aisle to champion this legislation and to untangle the barriers to care that extremist special interest groups have been weaving for decades in our state. We are grateful to Senator Linda Lamar and all of the legislators here today who are willing to fight for the health, safety, and futures of the families they've been elected to serve. And we are proud to join them and our incredible network of partners across the state to say that Tennesseans are ready for the Fundamental Right to Reproductive Health Care Act, and we will not stop there. We're ready for lawmakers to address one of the highest Black maternal mortality rates in the country. We're ready to fix the prenatal care deserts that leave pregnant Tennesseans in rural communities at risk for poor health outcomes. We are ready for our lawmakers to spend their time working to build systems that enable Tennessee families to stay safe, supported, and together, and to stop creating undue burdens for folks who already face systemic barriers to care, especially people of color, people who are immigrants, people living in rural areas, young people, and people with limited incomes. We will restore our fundamental right to reproductive health care in Tennessee when we come together and demand that our voices be heard. We will do this by holding our public officials accountable, especially at the ballot box. So we need our state's voters, volunteers, and all those who envision a Tennessee with reproductive freedom to join with us as we take on this fight together.
Good afternoon.
My name is Reverend Elliott. I am the pastor of the Village Church and the director of Racial Justice Ministries here at Sen Center. I am speaking to you today as a Black woman, mother, wife, sister, friend, and faith leader. It is because of who I am and what I believe as a Christian that I am here today to demand reproductive justice and freedom in Tennessee. All people, regardless of where we live or what we look like, deserve to be able to make the best healthcare choices for ourselves and for our families. This decision of when and if we become parents is to be made, is the most important decision that we will ever make in our lives. And that decision is to be made by the pregnant person in consultation with their partner and doctor. For decades, far-right groups and politicians have tried to demonize people who seek abortion care, eliminate access to health care providers, and restrict and outright ban reproductive care, even as they attack access to contraception, sex education, and policies that help parents and children. And this is precisely what is happening right here in Tennessee. Our elected officials claim to be Christians, and that is their Christian faith that they use as an excuse to pass dangerous laws and harmful laws that come between women, their families, and their doctors. They claim to be pro-life, yet they refuse to adequately fund and staff DCS. They refuse free federal money to expand Medicaid. They refuse to provide family leave for mothers and parents. They refuse to fully fund our public schools. And they make little or no effort to deal with the affordable housing crisis and affordable health care in this state. Tennessee's supermajority and Governor Lee's failure to promote policies that support women and children show that they have failed the children of Tennessee, and that who have already been born. Also, while forcing us to be a forced birth state, even for young girls who are victims of rape and incest. Tennessee has already one of the highest maternity mortality rates in the country. And the maternity death rate in 2020, this has been said, 2020, it was 62%. I just want to remind us that 2020 is before the Dobbs Act was passed. So that maternity rate being that high, even when abortion was available, imagine what is happening now that the ban is in full effect. Black women and birthing people in Tennessee are 3 times more likely to die than their white counterparts. As a Black woman, understanding what it means when our healthcare is already taken for granted, and the decisions that have happened with our bodies we are predisposed because of our skin to die while giving birth. That is problematic, and it is a shame. So the thought that comes to my mind is when the Pharisees came to Jesus and asked him which of the law is most important. And he said 2 things. He said to love the Lord with all your heart, mind, body, and soul, and to love your neighbor as yourself. The men in the state legislature are loving themselves more than they are loving women in this state. Autonomy over their bodies, to be able to recognize that women are equal too, and have the capacity to understand what is going on. And they have doctors who are willing to give them the information that they need to make decisions for themselves and sometimes with their spouses. The capacity is there. We have to demand that our state legislature lives up to the faith that they say they have, and to live according to that law, that they may love the Lord with all their heart, all their mind, all their body, and their soul, and that they will love women as themselves.
Hello, my name is Nina Gurak, and I'm the Policy Director with Healthy and Free Tennessee.
a statewide organization growing a movement for reproductive justice right here in our state. Reproductive justice calls on us to honor the human right to choose to have a child, choose not to have a child, and to raise that child in safe and healthy communities.
Yes.
When we think of reproductive justice, we think of access. Access to safe and supportive abortion care in our own communities, access to high-quality pregnancy and reproductive health care, access to safe and supportive birthing experiences free from racialized discrimination.
Yes.
Access to safe and healthy environments for our children and families to thrive without fearing state violence.
Yes.
We believe Tennesseans deserve all of this and more. This bill is a first step in realizing that vision and repairing some of the harm of Tennessee's extreme anti-abortion policies over the last 2 decades. Tennesseans deserve real access to abortion care, not just the right to an abortion if you can afford one, or travel hundreds of miles to get one. Abortion has not been accessible in Tennessee for quite some time. In particular, Black and brown and low-income communities have been hit hardest by the burdens imposed by this state on abortion care. Meaningful access to abortion includes funding abortion care, paid leave and sick time, and repealing parental consent laws. Meaningful access to abortion means working towards true economic and racial justice, so that a choice is more than just a slogan, but an actual reality that doesn't force Tennesseans to choose between poverty or parenthood. While this bill is only a first step, we look forward to the long road we have ahead of us, fighting not just to restore a right to an abortion, but to finally achieve meaningful access and reproductive justice in the state. Please join us.
If there are any of the lawmakers who have a brief comment, they can do that, and then we'll open it up for questions.
Open up for questions.
Holly Ball, Tennessee Lookout. Representative Clemens, Senator Lamar. It seems like it's probably going to be tough to get it through with Republicans. How do y'all propose to carry this bill and get Republican votes?
Well, I would first turn your attention to the fact that a majority of Tennesseans support exactly what we're trying to do here. And as always, we as Democrats in the state Senate and the state House always look to reach across the aisle and find colleagues and like-minded individuals across the aisle who believe in equality, who trust women to make their own healthcare decisions, and who believe that the extremist minority who passed this legislation needs to be amended. The law needs to be changed. No one's granddaughter, no one's mom, no one's sister is less than in the state of Tennessee, and the law should reflect that. So we will continue to reach out across the aisle and find colleagues who agree with us on those key issues and pass legislation that benefits all Tennessee families.
Republicans could potentially bring a bill to the floor that allows exceptions for rape and incest. My mother, the Democrats support that bill. It's only that bill and not supporting no other changes to the law.
As I said a couple of weeks ago, we have yet to see that language. And so while we would like and have had a history of working across the aisle for good policy, until we actually see language that restores those rights and fixes some of these issues that we are talking about, then I think it's upon us to be responsible enough and push legislation that will restore those rights and address many of the discrepancies that you see in this current sugar ban.
If Republicans need your votes to get the bill over the line, do you think you're still supportive? Is there some kind of leverage you guys see there?
Again, we made it very clear that we are willing to see past partisan misguided values for the betterment of women. And so we are asking them the same thing. So if there's policies to fix many of the issues that we talked about today, of course we are willing to join them, and we're asking the same vice versa. This is about policy, this is about saving women's lives, and this is about women and doctors having the access to give life-saving healthcare treatments to women across the state.
This is a pretty comprehensive bill. Is there any want to try and break it apart, like sort of piecemeal it? I know that may not be the approach you want, but it seems like it'd be a lot easier to get Republicans on board with one or two of these ideas.
Well, it's like I said to the Ms. McCall, the Lookout. This bill restores the rights of women in the state of Tennessee. There's no reason to take a piecemeal approach to restoring equality. We are seeking to address a fundamental wrong that has been created by an extremist minority that has resulted in the most extreme law in the entire country. So we, as Democrats, continue to lead on the healthcare issue. We believe in access and full access to healthcare. There should be no barriers to care in the state of Tennessee. That's why we are pushing a piece of legislation that addresses all of the concerns of the people we represent, and that's 6.9 million Tennesseans to whom we owe a duty.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I was reading over the bill. Is there any like deadline, like usually at like 20 weeks or 24 weeks? Is there anything like that in the legislation? Like when would the end date be when women could not get an abortion?
We talked about that. Decision is up to a mother and her doctor. We have to make those decisions back to the people who should be making those decisions. Again, that's a decision between women and physicians. And this bill gives them the leverage to make the appropriate decision for women's rights and their health.
Actually, we've got a physician who could talk about medical definitions in pregnancy if we would like that.
So I think the concern is that there's not a deadline for care to be delivered. Is that the concern? There should be no deadline for equality and restoring the rights of women and families here in Tennessee. But when it comes to pregnancies that are considered maybe later in term, or I think the more appropriate way to describe it is post-viability as a physician. So first of all, abortions that happen after fetal viability are very rare, okay? So to focus on that really does take away a great majority of what we should be focusing on as we make policy. I guess maybe some examples that you could give if you wanted to, but in general, third trimester abortions are rare, and really whenever you go and try to impose legislation and law on that very personal, delicate medical decision, you can just end up delaying life-saving care, and that's a problem. But if you want to give some examples of when maybe a post-viability abortion would take place.
So I think it's first important for you all to know that viability now is around 22 weeks and some change. So typically that would be the cutoff for most obstetricians. We would usually do most things to protect a pregnancy if it comes to that. Third trimester typically is thought to be after 27 weeks. So a couple of examples would be, I think it was brought up earlier, if a mother was found to have an ailment like brain cancer or breast cancer, where the treatment for the mother would be detrimental to the baby, and she was not thought to live much longer than the baby would be, that would be a time when a late term abortion, a third trimester induction would be undertaken. Another example would be a very severe cardiac anomaly with the baby's heart. And that sometimes is not understood well until the baby is further along. As the baby's heart is growing, we don't understand the nuances of that. And so it sometimes is just us understanding how things are working, and we might not understand that until after 27, 28 weeks. And as you understand, most of the time these are very heart-wrenching undertakings. And it usually is at the counsel of multiple specialists, including a high-risk obstetrician, a fetal cardiologist, cancer doctor, and other specialists if necessary, along with faith members, partners, and family members. So these are not isolated incidents where a patient decides that they're just ending a pregnancy. And I think the media sensationalizes this a lot when they use inappropriate terminology. So I just wanted you to know that.
While the doctors are up there, you mentioned some doctors are potentially not going to come to Tennessee or have left Tennessee. I'm wondering if you as doctors are privy to any of those specific conversations where doctors have talked about leaving or have left.
Absolutely. I know several obstetricians that have already left, and they're going to more blue states. I also know trainees that are not coming to Tennessee because they cannot be guaranteed to get the training they want. I also know of young professionals that are leaving in my practice because of such. I do think that Heidi Campbell has a fair point that this is going to impact our state, our growth. I think it's very important for us to realize that. You have any other comments?
All right, I think we're good. Thank you all.
Thank you.